And of course, that's a large part of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals that were developed in 2000 at the United Nations in New York, coming up with 8 specific goals that were very verifiable, they were quantifiable, they were able to be tracked over a 15-year period, and of course education plays a very, very important part of that. Well, we hear a lot about education. We also hear a lot about climate change. Now, you're with the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. If we go back to the scientific part, let's talk about climate change for a moment. What exactly is UNESCO doing in the area of climate change? This is something that everybody has to deal with. It's a major problem, probably one of the 2 major problems confronting the people in the world as we go into the 21st century. But what is UNESCO doing to help focus the spotlight on this whole issue of climate change and to help educate the public about the perils of not dealing with climate change?
3 words, Bill: educate, educate, educate.
Educate, educate, educate.
Now that's seriously, that's often a dimension we don't speak a lot about, because we speak a lot about the scientific findings, and we should. And UNESCO does contribute as part of our science program, notably in the study of the ocean, for example, for which we have the expertise. And you know, we know now, in fact, we see and we read. And we can see, yes, very visibly, the glaciers melting. I mean, this is, of course, I'm not a scientist, but I know that this is not quite normal, right? So we do have part of our scientific commissions that, of course, contribute to the general study on the impact of climate change, first of all, on climate change itself, and then the impact of climate change and what kind of policy we could adopt. So our study of the oceans is very important for that. Man and biosphere that we referred to earlier in our discussion today is also very important, because you remember I mentioned as part of the man and the biosphere, the main purpose is to study how ecosystems are changing and how human activity impacts ecosystem. So this is precisely what climate change study is all about now. But I mentioned education because we have a program not as well known called Education for Sustainable Development. This is a rather new program since a few years. In fact, probably since we met with the world leaders as part of the Millennium Development Goals strategy. And I think it is extremely important. Now there is a United Nations Decade for Education for Sustainable Development, but more importantly, we try to help our ministries of education around the world and teachers to be better equipped so that they can address this issue, depending on the different ages. You cannot wait till a kid is reaching 16 years of age or so until they understand all the great, scientific findings. You need to start very early, because in fact, every gesture we make, and I'm very impressed coming back to live in the United States after more than 10 years away, I see how much progress there has been achieved in terms of education of the public in this country, in terms of what little gesture you can do. You save plastic bags, you do this, you do that. So this is all part of best practices that we play a role in diffusing and letting them be known. And I think overall, part of our Education for Sustainable Development strategy is really to be able to open up and share experiences. So that is extremely important. I would say that's probably the most important role or contribution we do in this regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right, and it's so important that we communicate the message, we get the information out, that you involve young people, that you involve non-governmental organizations, faith-based groups, or perhaps service clubs such as Rotary International, or Lions International, or Kiwanis International, different groups like
Rotary.
that. Rotary. Yes, very involved with you, and they can be involved in the International Literacy Day, and of course, people can find out more information about UNESCO. They can go to www.unesco.org and tap into any of these programs and many, many more, because UNESCO is a very comprehensive agency. As you said, it's a network of it's networking other organizations, and so there's a lot of good information at this website. But Helene Marie Goselin, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Thank you so much, and happy always to come here.
Thank you. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us on today's Global Connections program.
Within the past decade,
nearly 1 billion people gained access to safe water,
and as many to sanitation.
43 countries
are on track to meet the goal of cutting hunger in half
by 2015.
Due to the 80% immunization rate,
the lives of more than 3 million children
are being saved each year. Through combined efforts,
our world has made significant progress
toward achieving the Millennium Development Goals.
United,
we can help to heal the world.